welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I'm here to review She-Hulk Episode 2. Now, She-Hulk Episode 2 is a tad bit shorter than 1 by a few minutes, and while it didn't affect me a great deal, I will admit, by the time this episode had wrapped up, I was like, damn, I wish this was a little bit, damn, I wish I had more. And I'm taking it as a good thing or a bad thing, that's up to your discretion, but just know this episode is about 27 minutes, give or take. And it's a fun one. It's actually, in terms of, that's why I really feel like they should have released the first 2 episodes. By the time I got done watching this, I was like, yeah, I think they should have released the first 2 episodes. I feel like that would have flowed a bit better, because last week my complaint was, oh, well, while I love all this She-Hulk stuff with Bruce and goddamn Jennifer, I'm like, oh man, I wish we could get into the actual, plot a bit of what's going to be happening. In this episode, we get into it. Right off the bat, we get into it. It immediately picks up maybe a day after the events of last week's episode, where she had to fight that, that random supervillain who burst through the wall of her courtroom in her case, like she was the fucking Kool-Aid man. Oh yeah, burst in that motherfucker. And we pick up after that, and of course she's famous now. People know who she is. It's kind of widespreading. There's only one other Hulk in the world, so of course she's gonna become a particularly famous. It's one thing to be a superhero. It's another thing to be a superhero who is not only related to, but has the same abilities of an Avenger. And of course, people start connecting those dots. And it starts to become clear the kind of story and the kind of arcs that they set up. Like, this episode, in particular, did a lot of ground setting. Did a lot of table setting. Last week's episode, was setting too, but it was it was the origin. It was just getting the origin and, the relationship between her and Bruce. So that way you understand, because you have to understand, last week's episode, now, looking back, was probably necessary, because we have never heard, at this point in the MCU, we've never even heard that Bruce has any, you figure most people in the MCU, have some type of extended family of a type. You know what I mean? Some kind of extended family. Maybe not direct family, but some kind of extended family. You figure Sam Wilson has an uncle, or, you figure, maybe Bucky Barnes had, some fucking, half-removed uncle, or, they're, you kind of assume that a lot of the characters in the MCU have some type of family, extended family, that they just don't have contact with, or they're not close with, so, we all know how that is. But to say that he has a cousin, a direct cousin, and that he's never mentioned her, and that he's going to be close with her, they really did have to get that over in the first episode, that these two are close, that these two are, they're cousins, but they're more like siblings in terms of their interactions with each other, because it's like that in the comics too. They had to get that across. And they did that in the first episode. So they got across what they wanted to get across. So that way, you understand the relationship, you understand their dynamic. So when they pop up together in another future thing, it's not going to be like, wow, that's so weird. She just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So I got that. So I kind of look back on the first episode and I cut it a little bit more slack for that alone. But this episode really, like I say, it sets up, it's a lot of setup in terms of the arc. We get to understand where she is. First of all, she gets fired by her employers because she's a liability. In real life, and this episode in particular really touches the real lifeness of people's reactions and interactions with being in a world full of superheroes. From people falling in love, from people not giving a shit about her, to falling in love with her because she's a superhero, to the only reason she got this new job opportunity is because of her super abilities, to even her interaction with her family, which there's a scene where she's having dinner with her mom, dad, and aunt and uncle, and cousin Ched, which turns out Ched's just a fucking tool, if you ask me. Fuck Ched. Fuck Ched. Get that hashtag going. Screw Ched. But anywho, Bruce was wrong. That dude's an idiot. But maybe Bruce was being a dick too. But he said he was a genius. But either way, even her interactions with her family is exactly how you imagine. In my opinion, if I woke up tomorrow and I had superpowers and I was revealed I was a superhero, the next time I saw my family, it would be over the top at first. It would be over the top at first. But given time, all of a sudden, you would fuck it out of nowhere. Everyone would start calling me up to do convenient shit. Like I don't know, if I could fly, like my aunt would be like, hey, be real cool. Like, I'm traveling to this state. Like, I really don't want to fucking pay for this flyer ticket. Are you doing something? I mean, you can just fly me up, right? You can just fly me over there, right? Easy. It's just like, okay. Like, hey, you're in there. You got super speed. Can't you go pick up Tim? Like, you got super speed. You can go do it in no time and have him back home. Like, I'm telling you, that's how it would really be. If you had superpowers, your family would be in awe of you for all of a month. If you're not an asshole, if you're not like Homelander or a psychopath, and you're a normal kid and you're still pretty much the same dude that they know, they will eventually get used to you having powers, and they will try to use that. And your mom and your dad and your cousins and all of them, they will try to use that shit. Next thing you know, your cousin will be like, hey, I'm dropping a mixtape. Hey, can you be in the background? I'm making a music video. Could you just like be in the background of it? Just be in it for me, Help me sell this. Like, it would be just like that, which is why I love the post-credits scene, because I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much, that's exactly how it would go. And then, like I say, this show, and then the Netflix shows, the Disney Plus shows in general really have done a great job. And like, no one's talking about this, and I might make an entire separate video talking about this, but they've done a great job of grounding the MCU, of kind of giving you a ground level perspective, because we've gotten so many people's ideas of what it is to be in this fucking universe. And this particular showed like a different kind of family, how a different family would react to finding out that someone has superpowers. A family that already found out that a family member of theirs had superpowers. So this is like, it's very fun. I like the family scene, and it's set up a lot. But like I said, there's obviously a nice little arc here because Jen feels uncomfortable. And this is an interesting thing that hasn't really been in the MCU in a while, which is a superhero who really doesn't see being a superhero as much more than an inconvenience. I mean, she pretty much bashes what it means to be a superhero. Like, oh, superheroes, like, being a superhero is narcissistic, or, or you're an orphan. And, like she, the kind of words she, like, describes them as. And, like, there's no actual benefits. And it's just, like, does it have a benefit? Like, being an Avenger, does it have do you get paid? Does it have a retirement package? Does it have this and this? Like, the idea that they're playing with here, which is an interesting one, is she has been having superpowers has been forced upon her. And unlike some people like Peter Parker or, other heroes, she has been one of the people who's kind of seen the negatives of what it's like to be a superhero from a distance. Kind of like me and you. Me and you have read enough superhero stuff. We would know the negatives of what it means to be a superhero. We would get it. There have been a book or something what we have seen that shows it. And her perspective is she only sees the negatives of what it means to be a superhero. And she's like, I didn't even choose this shit. This shit just happened. I don't want it. I don't want nothing to do with it. And now I worked my ass off. And like, I see her perspective to thrive in the world that I chose to thrive in. I chose to be a lawyer. I chose to study. I chose to build up all this student loan to be a lawyer. And now, not only did I lose my dream job because of superpowers I never asked for, but now I'm getting a new job that I only have because of superpowers I never asked for. And clear as day, the story of Jennifer Walters, and they did a great job, in my opinion, of setting this up, is this is a woman who has to come to terms with her superpowers and find her own reason to be a superhero. Because so far, it's like, in my opinion, it's kind of subtle. I didn't notice it until I saw someone else point it out. I was like, it is interesting. So far, essentially, men have been telling her what she should do with her powers. If you want to be technical, she got her name, She-Hulk, from two dudes talking. Bruce told her, like, it's your responsibility to use your powers. If you don't use your powers, then, it's up to us. So you have to use your powers. And the man who hired her only hired her because she's She-Hulk. And he told her to stay in She-Hulk form when she's defending clients and stuff. So in a way, basically, everyone is telling her how to use her powers except her. And she's the only one who doesn't want anything to do with these powers. And it's clear as day to me that that's going to be the arc, is her coming to terms with that, her saying, this is what I want to use my powers for. I want to use these powers to fight people. I'm about 80% sure that by the time this show wraps up, she will not be working for that company anymore. She will strike out on her own to be her own lawyer, like doing her own fucking thing. I have a feeling that that's going to happen. But, she, like I said, she gets the new job. She's only hired just for this particular purpose. But the boss, guys playing her boss is kind of funny too. Like, there's one particular scene where he's talking to like his secretary, and clearly he's giving his secretary marching orders to go talk to other lawyers in the firm, and he's just like, tell so-and-so to, he's going to Indianapolis because he hates the cold. Yeah, tell him that's why I'm sending him there. Like, damn, dude. It's one thing to rib somebody by giving them a case in an area they don't like. It's an entire other thing to tell the person to say, tell them this is why I'm doing this. I want them to know that I am fucking them over. I thought that was pretty funny. Pretty odd dude. But her first case, right off the bat, Emil Blonsky, we get introduced to him. He's back in the MCU again, but he's in his human form. And Blonsky gives a nice story, a sob story, about how essentially it's not really his fault what happened back in the Incredible Hulk, because not only was he contracted by our government to hunt the Hulk, so everything he did was up to a point was because of us, so we have to take responsibility for that. But they also doped him up with the super soldier serum. Now, us as the viewer know that there was more to that story than just, oh, he was this, because he's painting a picture like, dude, I was just a soldier hired to do a job, then you guys start doping me up with super soldier serum, and it started messing with my head, dude. Like, that's what happened. It started messing with my head, and then it turned me into the Abomination. He's left out a key point of him using the Hulk's blood to turn himself into Abomination. He's really left out that key point. And that's interesting. And, like, to be fair, though, the points he made are points that could be presented in a courtroom and questionable doubt. Because you know how law works in America. It has to be with, like, if there's questionable doubt, you know what I mean? And the way he presented it, there is definitely a degree of questionable doubt, because no one else knows he took Bruce's blood other than him. And maybe Bruce, but no one else, the leader, whoever he is. So there is a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a plausibility to the idea that he could present his, what he's saying in a courtroom, and it would cause doubt, because no one knows what was in that super serum they gave him. That they gave him probably without permission. They put it into him. It's nothing for him to claim that he didn't know what was happening, that they gave him an experimental super soldier serum and it messed with his head and he went on rampage, and that I don't deserve to be here in this prison. And I have a gut feeling he's bullshitting, and once he gets his release, Jen is going to immediately regret it. But unfortunately, Jen might have to, getting him his release might be a bit difficult, since it came out that, the events of Shang-Chi, with him in that fighting cage with Wong, turns out that happened. So it turns out that someone recorded it and leaked the video. Now, I don't think they're saying that these are happening. Some people are saying, oh, these are happening at the same time. I don't know if they're saying that. It's not too difficult to believe that someone that someone took a recording of it and just managed to sneak it out and then just managed to upload it now. I don't think Shang-Chi is literally taking place at the same time. Like, I think the recording leaked out now, at this current time in the She-Hulk world, and she's gonna have a hard. Like, I'm not even sure how they're gonna explain how he got out. Like, Wong's gonna show up, and how is Wong gonna explain to them that he took him out of his cell so that he can make some money on the side? Like, I am curious. I am anticipating next week's episode. I am excited. Anyways, I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. I think it's better than the first week's episode. I think it hits the exact tone, and it's Easter eggs galore all over the place. I mean, it is Easter eggs all over the place. There might be an Easter egg to Wolverine. There's an Eternal Easter egg. Might be a Thunderbolts Easter egg. All over the place. But either way, I had a great time. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.